Binaural Breakthrough with VR headsets and smart camera technology predicting violent crimes. This week, IFTTT released new apps and YouTube released YouTube Kids. This is Luke Besant
and Cameron Norris.
Every week we bring you the latest industry news, must-have reviews, gadgets and internet culture.
Giving our opinions on the wider legal, social and moral implications of life in our digital age.
This is App to Date. Now, as you may have noticed, Cameron's not with me this week. He'll be popping in later on in the show. First off, this week's app news. Following in the successful footsteps of Vine Kids, YouTube revealed plans this Thursday for an Android-based US release of YouTube Kids app. The app, released on Monday, is built from the ground up with the little ones in mind, and of course caters to their parents' concerns. The free app should be available in the US Google Play Store now, if all goes to plan. The app is a simple to use stage for age-appropriate videos, channels and playlists, skewed towards content that promotes literacy according to YouTube. It also ties in features that I've recommended on the show before, including a countdown timing clock, which limits the children's viewing time, and the ability to disable online searches along with parental controls. YouTube Kids partners include DreamWorks, Mother Goose Club, National Geographic, Reading Rainbow and Talking Tom and Friends. I think it's a fantastic idea because as we see the end of broadcast television as we know it, the rise of on-demand services such as Netflix for kids, this could help usher in a new era of children's TV and entertainment. So let's hope it doesn't get too watered down with adverts from Disney World. Snapchat's new valuation. This week Snapchat is looking to raise as much as $500 million in its new round of funding. This could potentially take the valuation of the Los Angeles-based company to $19 billion. This valuation was first reported by Bloomberg on Tuesday. If the report is correct, this will mean that the company is now worth an additional $9 billion on its current $10 billion valuation that we reported on last year. This dramatic increase in value is reported by many as being down to having an engaged and active user base of more than 100 million people, as well as its growing functionality and features and its ties with corporate networks such as CNN and ESPN. My concern with the valuation is that it seems a little bit too big to be true. $19 billion for 100 million active users. That's $190 per user. As we've discussed before, we may be witnessing another tech bubble similar to the dot-com crash in the 2000s, but I'm sure they're not too worried about that at this moment in time. Some other tech companies that are benefiting are companies such as Uber, which is valued at $41 billion, which is a little bit more understandable price for an internationally disruptive industry game changer, and the Chinese smartphone maker Xiaomi is now worth $46 billion, which again, this one actually holds some substance to its value, whereas Snapchat leaks photos of their users using third-party plugins. I guess that some of that value inside Snapchat at the moment is down to Snapcash and all of the users' personal details. IFTTT rebrands its app, launching 3 new Do apps for Android and iOS. IFTTT, the web automation service, otherwise known as If This Then That, has launched 3 new apps alongside rebranding its main app. The apps are called Do Apps, the Do button, Do Camera and Do Note. The primary IFTTT app has been rebranded to just If, and all 4 are available for download via the Play Store and the App Store. For those of you who don't know, IFTTT is a service used by people looking to streamline their online digital life, as well as giving you some controls over the Internet of Things. So, for instance, you could set it up so that every time you make a Facebook status, it will automatically post to Twitter, or any number of more advanced functionalities. For instance, you could do what we've done over at the studio, like link up your Twitter, Instagram and Facebook notifications to different colour flashing lights on your Studio Philips Hue bulb. The company also has control capabilities across Dropbox, Google Drive, calendars and just a lot of services that you may use in everyday life. So if you haven't already checked them out, make sure you do. The announcement came on Thursday via the company's blog entitled Introducing Do, a new class of apps by IFTTT, and said take action with the tap of the button. Do empower you to create your own personalised button, camera and notepad. Run recipes right when you want to. This is one I know Cameron will be excited about. Twitter finally improves account sharing with TweetDeck Teams. Twitter have finally made it easier to share a company account, group or band page on Twitter with TweetDeck. This means you can now operate Twitter as a team without giving away your password. You could be one of two roles. Firstly, admin. An admin will have the ability to sign into TweetDeck with their personal accounts and access features like follow, unfollow accounts, build lists, send tweets, schedule tweets, add, remove, and view team members. But they cannot access the account off of TweetDeck or change credentials or passwords. Or secondly, you could be a contributor who tweets from the account, builds lists, follows and unfollows accounts, and sends and schedules tweets. But you cannot view, add or remove team members and access the account outside of TweetDeck. More on this as it develops, as it's very confusing. So next up, binaural audio, and Cameron's joining me in the studio. Binaural audio coming to VR. If you're an audiophile or a gamer, you'll love this idea. Binaural audio is a technology that dates back to the late 1800s, but due to hundreds of reasons, including cost of audio hardware on the consumer end, it was dominated by mono and then later stereo sound. However, it's been rumoured to be making a revival on VR headsets. Here's how it works. It records a sound exactly how it would enter the human ear, so it factors in things like ear shape. Its arrival time is based on distance to the ear, so let's say if Cameron was on my left hand side,
Which I am.
the audio would arrive in my left ear first and then slightly later in the right ear, which would be with less velocity and less loudness, which would prove to my subconscious that you were in fact on my left. And it also takes into consideration timbre, which is used as a descriptive word for the texture of sound. So it's the way it reflects and bounces and reverberates on walls and the environment that you're in and into each individual ear. So when normal stereo picks up a sound relative to a screen, so let's say there's a baby panda sneezing on the right hand side of a screen, the audio will be panned to the right hand side with some of it leaking into the left hand side. This is called panning. So what happens is that the sound is still coming out at the exact same time but on different sizes, so it doesn't actually completely immersively convince your brain that you're in that situation, whereas binaural audio does, because it replicates the shape of a head, the density of your ear, everything.
Now I understand that these binaural recorders are very expensive and that the full head ones go for something like $5,000. I had a look online. They're incredible. Like, they're a feat of engineering.
Well, there's many ways you can actually recreate this at home. I tried to do it back when I was in college, is that I put two microphones sort of in my ear, the same way you would headphones, and walked about for a bit and saw what would happen. So essentially that is the same thing. It's almost easier to capture than stereo sound. However, it's much harder to get an output for that consumers are going to actually listen to or enjoy in any way. Many people have become in a way sort of adapted to artificial sound now. I've said it before, it's like when you see a movie, the Foley and ADR in it, which is analog dialogue replacement by the way, they've been known to do things such as replace the sound of somebody buttering toast with the sound of a credit card rubbing against somebody's stubble because it sounded, quote, more like somebody buttering toast. So I can't quite remember whether that was in the new King Kong movie or one of the War of the Worlds films, but that was a quote that absolutely mind blew me when I first learned about it. You can actually make a more realistic sound by doing something that's not that sound. So people have become so used to hearing that, so fake explosion sounds, fake sounds of people's leather jackets in Terminator films, that that they're so used to it in films that they consider that to be the normal.
I think that's the same with personalities as well, actually. With celebrities, we're so used to these super over-the-top personalities and celebrities that normal people seem kind of boring when actually they're not.
Yeah. So now even if you used Dolby 5.1, which uses 5 different outputs in 5 different directions, you'd still not quite get it right. Or Dolby Atmos, which is just, I can't remember, like 1 billion outputs. You still don't get it quite the same as you do with the 2 outputs on binaural audio. So it's pretty intelligent.
Incredible stuff there, Luke. Luke, audio, tech genius. Extraordinaire.
Well, I know a thing or two about audio. It was a thing I sort of studied, but to get that in a VR headset, I think would be a completely immersive experience for people playing games, and it will be, perfect just as soon as they master in VR the sense of touch, smell, and taste. We'll be there.
We'll be there. The Terminatrix.
So next up, we enter
the opinion section.
smart camera technology predicting violent crimes.
Now, is so-called smart camera technology the future of CCTV surveillance? Scientists at Cardiff University, who are behind the technology, think it could help target problems. The basic idea is that they have put together algorithms that can detect erratic behaviour through analysis of CCTV footage.
One of the biggest challenges is getting it to the point where it's able to detect the difference between erratic human movement and that of an animal walking across the street, a spider on the lens, rain close up instead of far away. So there's many things that could be causing a problem here, but maybe they could create 3D image models, put, a sort of preliminary 3D image model of CCTV on a high street, but it seems a bit far-fetched, to be honest, because actually in the UK in the last 10 years violent crime has fallen by a huge amount, and so tightening up on security and blowing the budget in this way and spending it on this rather than, what are they doing building RoboCop when there's no crime to fight? I'm not saying there's no crime to fight, but it certainly doesn't seem to be a purpose in tightening up security and wasting police budget where you could be buying actual police officers for the same cost they're paying, Cardiff University to study what CCTV camera footage looks like.
Yeah, and I think that the technology they're actually using behind this, which is programming their own algorithms, it's got a really, really short expiration date on it, because neural networks and deep learning with AI is the future, and that would be a brilliant application to this kind of technology. So even if they do make this a success and they roll out, the lifespan on it's going to be very short, because there's software coming out which is far superior to this, because humans can only program so well, and machines that can effectively program themselves and learn from the environment and what they're actually being shown, and all these different factors that a human being can't even pick up with their eyes but that a machine can. Well, I mean, it speaks for itself, doesn't it?
Our opinion on this then would be, is smart camera technology the future of predicting violent crime? And I would say no.
Yeah, I'd say no. Definitely not in this format. We're not quite at Minority Report yet.
Lastly, we have listener questions. This week it comes in from Gary. Which is the more reliable platform, Android Lollipop or iOS 8?
Well, Gary, according to Criticism, the mobile application performance management solution company, Android Lollipop's app crash rate is a mere 2%, while the app crash rate on iOS 8 is 2.2. So a small difference, but a difference nonetheless. And interestingly though, iOS 7 had only a 1.9% crash rate. So, I mean, does that mean are Apple's products in decline, as we've said?
Well, Android's products are actually down from its average. They were 2.6% is a crash rate on average Android devices, whereas on Lollipop, like we say, it's 2%. So
25% improvement.
They're on the way up. Apple are on the way down. Is that what we're suggesting here? I don't know, but
seems to be the case.
I find it impressive because of the way Apple keeps such a level of control over what goes into their products, right from the hardware to limiting software that you can download onto it through the App Store. And I just don't believe that they have the most crash-tastic platform. Maybe it's not necessarily true with the newest update of iOS 8, and maybe that applies as well to the first version of iOS 8, which was a bit of a failure on Apple's front. Maybe they're averaging across all of the releases so far, because I would say at the moment iOS 8 is relatively reliable ever since iOS 8.1.
Yeah, and iOS 9 apparently is going to be just focusing on stability. It's going to be completely centered around building a stable platform so we don't get these crashes, we get performance increases, and we can play and use better, higher performance using apps and enjoy them rather than them quitting to the home screen. Because I know Apple are kind of clever like that. It doesn't crash quite like it does on Windows, for example, when you get the screen kind of blanks out and then you've got warning, error, blah, blah, blah. I mean, on the iPad, it just goes to the home screen, which can be kind of frustrating because I think, I've tapped the home button when I haven't. So
yeah, I know what you mean, but
it's crash on stealth.
I'm not actually sure how the Windows Phone does it. I hope the Windows Phone doesn't blue screen on you.
Blue screen Windows Phone, yeah.
Anyway, thank you very much for listening into the App State podcast this week. I've been Luke Besson.
And I've been Cameron Norris. You've been listening to the App to Date podcast.
Follow us on Twitter at iOS App News 24. Find us on Facebook, the App to Date podcast, where you can catch up with the latest show notes, artwork, and discussions, and more.
We also offer a free weekly email news summary, which you can sign up for through the Facebook page.
And if you're interested in sponsoring or a partnership with the show, make sure you visit our website, www.3deal.co.uk, for more information.
Subscribe and we'll see you next week.